Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our reaction and review for The Curse Season 1, Episode number 9. I am a tool because tools fix things. That may be the greatest line that The Curse has ever delivered amidst an episode that is really just cringe-inducing and or terrifying.
I actually thought that was really cute.
Okay.
The way that he was able to kind of turn that around a little bit. I didn't find that part cringy. I actually thought that was really cute.
Look at you, Asher. You have the ability to come up with a couple of reasonably adorable lines amidst every other thing that you were doing.
And then you gave the line, good girl, at the end of this, and you just ruined it. You just ruined it. Oh my goodness. It's such an interesting episode because it really is a study of love and obsession and really where the line is with that.
This show is fascinating. Like, I don't think it's going to change anybody's minds at this point. Like, let's be real here. If you love the show already, you're going to continue to love the show. If you hate the show, nothing about this episode is going to make you turn around on it. It is just leaning full into the how can I make you as uncomfortable as possible?
Yeah, that whole bathroom scene, we're just going to kind of skip right over that with Asher saying all these things about Bill and his wife and whatever. Oh my goodness.
Like, Asher, do you not know that Whitney could be there? Do you not know that Whitney could be listening?
Yeah, I think he's so in his head. Like in the last episode, we saw him making that list of basically smile more, be more agreeable with her. Like, so he's trying to find other outlets to get out who he is and how he's feeling in private in the bathroom. But yeah, he doesn't know if she's able to hear whatever. He's really just trying to be exactly what Whitney wants because he doesn't want to lose his marriage. And I actually think that that's something that's probably relatable to a lot of people that have been going through divorce or just like, hey, maybe if I change this about myself or that about myself, it'll fix my marriage. It'll make, this person want to be with me again. And, it's just not the way that it works. But when you're in that frame of mind, trying to figure out how do I save this, you're trying everything.
We're going to get so much more into that and a lot more from this episode that I think is really interesting and really complicated. But first, hit that subscribe button because we are your guys' outlet and our own for all things related to the curse. Also, we are right in the midst of a very busy murder mystery time here at the channel where we have coming up everything from Death and Other Details, Criminal Record, True Detective, The Woman in the Wall.
Yeah, Monsieur Spade. I'm really excited about that one. I love Sam Spade from Maltese Falcon. They got a TV show all about it coming up, played by Clive Owen, who we really love from, Murder at the End of the World. Also, we have live streams every week on The Curse over at our Patreon. I will leave a link for you down below in the description.
Okay, this is such a deep episode. It's hard to figure out the right spot.
Okay, let's start sort of with what I had mentioned at the beginning of this, that thin line between love and obsession, because it really is all about how the person feels on the other end of it. Like a romantic gesture from someone that you're interested in, like showing up at your work with flowers, being like, let me take you out to dinner, is like, oh, amazing. Oh, it's so romantic. But that same gesture from someone that you are not interested in then turns into a creep show, but it's the same gesture of trying to give love or appreciation or show someone how you feel about them. And we've got the extreme here where you've got someone who, a married couple. So they've already kind of gone through the dating, courtship, engagement. They are married now. So when you're in this situation, trying to figure out where that line is of you love somebody or you're obsessed with somebody is very difficult to figure out, because once you're in it and you're like, well, I'm in love, I'm with this person. So the gesture of, I want to make my wife as happy as possible. How can I do this? She wants me to be more like this. Cool. I don't mind making that adjustment. I'll do that. Of course, this is Asher we're talking about. So it's to an extreme where Whitney is now on the other side of it, where she's just like, this doesn't feel like love. This feels like he's just doing whatever he can to please me. This isn't about me or him or whatever anymore. This is just about him holding on to me, which is not the same thing as love. And I actually wonder if the show is really the demise of their relationship, because it's like she's got so many people in her ear
Yeah.
gassing her up, being like, "You're the green queen, you're this, you're the star of the show. Also, your husband is the gesture. He's not anything. He's just a joke. We're even gonna put it in the contract. We're gonna change the contract so that we can just make fun of him as much as possible. Like, why are you with him?" That stuff has to be getting into her head on top of it.
I think what's very interesting about this relationship is sort of charting it here. Like, let's have an imaginary timeline for a moment, because Whitney is in this state right now where she is empowered, whether it is through the show, through the people who are around her, but these
Mhm.
people are all sort of self serving in their own way. But probably way back when, like back when Whitney and Asher first met, if we're going to jump into a time machine here for a moment. Okay, we're back at the beginning. She has really not great parents. I think that is very, very clear from what we have seen.
Mhm.
I think at that point, what Asher was doing, probably giving so much to her, enabling her, like all of these different things, she probably really appreciated a certain part of that. And it probably wasn't as extreme as it is right now, where he's just like recording messages of ways he can improve, but then also recording messages about Bill. But anyway, at this point, things have changed. They've changed radically, and people change over time. And I think as it's gotten worse and worse and worse for Asher, I think it's made Whitney realize, okay, this isn't really what I want. I want, empowerment and I want fulfillment, but I'm getting that from a lot of people at this point. And
Mhm.
yeah, Whitney is not exactly capable of understanding that a lot of the people who are giving her things are giving her things because she is quote unquote the boss, or because she has supported them, or because they feel like they have to, but she doesn't really understand the difference. Like, that's the thing. Asher is an extremely messed up person. Like, that is clear. But Whitney's not exactly just like this perfect example of humanity or social dynamics here either.
Yeah, I think she's really having an identity crisis. She doesn't know who she is, but she knows what she doesn't want to be. She doesn't want to be her parents. I
Yeah.
think that scene with her parents was really telling, where she was just like, you guys instilled nothing in me. Like, nothing. Like, it's just money and, privilege. And that's all she really understands, because that's what she grew up in. But she knows she doesn't want to be that. But because there's nobody mentoring her or a proper influence in her life that she's actually like opening her eyes to, because she probably could find that if she wasn't like this the whole time. She seemingly knows she wants to change, but she doesn't know how to make that happen for herself, because there was no real roadway
Yeah.
for her to understand it. Like that scene with Kara where she goes to the spa and Kara is her masseuse, and she's just like, Kara basically gives her the choice, the turkey choice again, to be like, do you want me to do this for you? Are you going to take a piece of me with you? And at first she's like, yeah, you're my friend. So this makes it, less awkward. And then it was like a light bulb went off and she was like, you know what? No, I don't want this. I'm going to walk away. And I was like, oh my goodness, good for you. And then she's like, I'd like to leave a $350 tip. I'm like, oh no, Whitney, you were almost there. And I think it's that I think she really does want to get there, but she can't get out, from behind herself and how she grew up.
I think it showed that scene that she is capable, that she has it somewhere within her, that she can sort of evolve past these things. But the thing is, evolution is not a fast thing. You can
No.
learn something about yourself, but you still got to go through a million different hurdles. And it does not help that she doesn't have anybody really around her who is willing. Nobody's giving her basically their own version of the pottery footage that, Asher saw at the end of this episode. So she's not getting like this blunt, honest truth from pretty much anybody. But speaking of, honest truths here, the start of this episode is pretty fascinating, and I have a lot of just like inside TV talk about this.
All
So
right.
Dougie And Whitney realized through the HGTV executive that it's like, okay, what we want from this show, we want a show about family. We want a show about this relationship working. And it's just like, Dougie, who did you think you were making this show for? This is not, Bravo. This is not a network where they just like have their fun watching people throw things at each other.
Mhm.
This is the fun, wholesome environment. And yeah, the show even does a good job of touching on oh, well, there are these home improvement shows where they have like the couple split up and they still do stuff
Mhm.
together. Like there is this one person, and this is proof that I do not watch any of these shows really, but there is this one couple that I know had some show. They broke up. They're like with other people now, but it's like everything I have learned about these, I have learned from like the tabloids because I'll always see, oh, this woman is at this beach with this. It's like the only reason I know who this is because I keep seeing a million different stories about y'all's shows and them not working. But anyway, my point is just that they're not going to bring somebody on from the get-go who is like already having trouble because then there's no wholesome family image to even like get attached to.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw Whitney try to take this information, be like, okay, if there's no real show without Asher and I being able to be together, then I need to try to find a way to make that happen. So she's like, hey, let's go bowling. We have this really intense conversation where she's just talking about let's go bowling, and
Yeah.
he's truly down the hole on himself. We saw last episode she was really rude to him. They
Yeah.
had that fight about what happened with the casino and everything like that, where she was really like, that was you, I saw you, I recognize you, it doesn't matter, back of your head, like, I see what you did, you were laughing, like, stop. That he is more like, she's like bowling and he's like, do you love me? And
Yeah.
she never answered it. And I I think it's just she's really trying to figure out, can she make this work for the show? And I think by the time we get to the end of the episode where she's like, show him the pottery scene, that was just her way of voicing, I'm done with this marriage, instead of just saying to him privately with more respect, I'm done with this marriage.
Yeah, she just doesn't have the ability to really have this sort of real conversation directly with him. She's just got to go through this other means of making it happen. And that's
Mhm.
why all of this is just like such a mess. This is just like all the ingredients are strewn all over the table. It's just she has all these different opportunities to be more honest and upfront with him along the way. And Asher takes things way, way too far, and there's a lot of creep show qualities to him. But then it's also at the same time, she is flirting with him, going into the bowling alley.
Mhm.
Like she is doing things that also enable his sense of false hope that, like, okay, maybe this can work. Like maybe things can sort of work out. But I think we mentioned Bill earlier. We're going to mention Bill in a different context here, everybody. Don't worry. But I think it's that conversation with Bill at the bowling alley that is kind of the big turning point because Whitney was
Mm.
sort of okay to be like, hey, Bill, how's it going? Sort of just have like this kind of innocent conversation. And Asher just takes this up to 11 and is like, I'm the whistleblower. I did it. He does this whole tool comment. He's just as fully on it in that scene. And everybody else is just like, sir, this is a bowling alley. Like, is this really where you need to do this? And I think that's where Whitney's like, okay, he has no understanding of any sort of social dynamics, nuance, boundaries, anything. I can't do this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think throughout this whole episode, it was just a bunch of that piling up on her, like everything at the bowling alley. Who wants somebody standing over them asking about stuff while they are working out? Don't do that. Like, don't do
Yeah.
that. She's in the middle of using a rowing machine and trying to ask questions about the contract. Wait 5 minutes till she's done. The contract will still be there. It'll still be
Yeah.
unsigned. You can do it at another time. And it feels like it's just piling up, piling up, piling up. The bathroom thing where she's really like, I think this person just truly doesn't know me, because some of the things he was saying in the bathroom about Bill being with his wife and whatever, she was in the other room kind of being like, I don't think that that's me, like, I don't want to participate in something like this, but does he want me to participate in something like this? Is he putting himself down? Like, I don't understand what he's doing. I think she started to understand that not only does he not understand her, but she doesn't understand him. And for me, I think the real turning point was watching the show and watching the dynamic between them. As she was watching the show, I think she, for a second, saw how fake she was on the show, where she was just like, I'm living in a shell and it looks like it on this show. I don't feel this way. I don't behave this way. I'm not this way inside. And I think that's why that was the turning point for her, where she was like, bring out the pottery part. I'm done.
Yeah, I think watching yourself is a very telling experience, especially on a show that is really all about you. That's all about your vision,
Mhm.
something you're the most passionate about. And like that should be the purest version of you. That should be the version that's like, Whitney, just sort of like coming down from the heavens. And instead it's just like, meh. I found, at least before we got to the pottery footage, I don't know if it was intentional, but I found a lot of that show unintentionally hilarious. It was just like all of it was so weird, including here's Fernando all of a sudden being super friendly at the coffee shop. Here's the stunt with the jeans. Here's Dougie dubbing over Green Queen as it was just so ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty normal. That happens a lot. She hadn't gotten into ADR yet. But
Yeah.
yes, it was really ridiculous. And I think her watching herself, I think she really realized this wasn't for her. So by the time they got to the pottery thing and Asher really realized that the marriage is over, this is where we get into the big question that we asked in the title of
Yeah.
this video, which is, is Asher going to kill Whitney? And I think that one of two things are going to happen here. This is my tinfoil hat
All right. All
theory
right.
of where we're
Let's
going
go.
with this. So we saw her basically be like, the marriage is over through the TV show. He comes back in and he's very intense with her. And he's saying, basically, I'll do anything to save this marriage. Something that's very normal to happen when your marriage is falling apart, that you'd be
Sure.
like, I will change whatever you need. I will do anything that you need. Look at me. I'm a change man. All of that. That's very normal. But because Asher is not normal
Mhm.
and he's been doing some things that are way over the line, that are in that creep show territory, like the bathroom thing, like, stuff like that is very odd. It changes the tone of what he's saying. So by the time he gets to the end of it, where he's like, that's right, let it out, good girl. I think the look on her face told me it was just pure terror, where she was just like, I'm stuck. I can't actually leave him, because it felt like she was like, if I leave him, and what we saw him on the show where he was like, oh, if she leaves me, I have nothing. That now she's in this headspace of like, he might kill me. So I'm wondering going into the finale if Asher is going to end up snapping, because we've seen that he does,
Yeah.
and he ends up killing her, whether by accident or on purpose, or she decides that there's no way out of this. She can't leave him, or he might kill her, or something along those lines, where she feels trapped and she decides to unalive herself. It feels like we're getting to a really dark spot. Whitney is not getting out of this season alive.
Okay. The what is so interesting, I think, about this show is that they're willing to go into territory that will make us as uncomfortable as possible. And that's why at one level, I appreciate the risk taking. On another level, it makes me really uncomfortable to watch. But I think all this stuff is on the table for that very reason. I don't think this show is going to be afraid of doing something like that, that you invest this time in these characters and it goes to this like really crazy, insanely dark place, because like they have laid the groundwork for it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like one other thing that also came into my head here as a possibility, and this kind of goes back into the title of the curse and what this curse is really. We heard Asher trying to come up with his own pseudo explanation for it in this
Mm-hmm.
episode, but Whitney may have another option if she feels like it is really on that level that you're mentioning, that, oh,
Mm-hmm.
Asher may try to kill me. Do you just try to flee? Do you just try to run away? Are you able to then go to some people and be like, okay, I haven't really been myself with you, but I'm really worried about Asher. Is there anything you can do to help? Or take the money that you have, like get out of Dodge, like go full Dexter after the original series finale, which was bad, and go and become a lumberjack somewhere else. Just take this new identity. And I think that's certainly possible
Hmm.
and on the table, but at the same time, the problem here is the curse could then be the show because she has done this really good job of trying to like keep her identity away from her parents and all that. We even saw her Googling herself in this episode. If this show is out there, it's almost impossible for her to go anywhere and have a new identity. I mean, sure, not every home improvement show here is successful, but you've got reality TV producer guru Dougie here
Yeah.
working behind the scenes. Like, this show could be very successful, and then Asher may be able to find you wherever you are. And, like, I still think it's possible she could try to get away, and we just don't know what's going to happen to her. But I think no matter where we turn at this point, is there any chance at all that this show has a happy ending? I mean, you guys can let us go in the comments. I just don't see it.
Is it also possible that Whitney kills Asher, that she doesn't
Yeah.
feel like there's any way out of this and she just finds a way to kill him? And she ends up going from the beginning of this whole series where she's like, oh, wholesome, sweet Whitney, agreeable, doing whatever she can for everybody, to murderer by the end of this and getting those we saw her with the headlines,
Yeah.
that she's going from, fine, agreeable to, these headlines in this episode to murderer by the end of this, that her whole reputation is just destroyed
Yeah.
because she doesn't just sign divorce papers and hope that Asher will sign them.
It's like, is the curse the relationship? Is the curse the show? Is
I
the
think it's the show.
It's, there's so many different interesting little questions all about it. I mean, really, I'm gonna twist the classic phrase here, but maybe the real curse is, the friends they lost along the way,
Oh
the
my goodness.
people who the people who could have helped them to maybe get out of this situation, but they're so far into it at this point that they really don't see any sort of way out. And like, this episode did hone in a lot on this specific relationship, but I mean, still think there are other factors that we have seen this season that are going to come back into play. Like, Nala's completely like non-existent in this episode. Like, I still feel like she in some way is going to have a role to play in all of this, especially because she does think that she is empowered in some ways and that she does have these sort of special abilities now, thanks
Mhm.
a lot Asher, where I could see her trying to get back into Asher's head with something else, whether it's accidental or not, and that could inadvertently be a thing that sends him over the edge even further.
Yeah.
I think just really at this point, this show has done a good job of taking us on a journey where almost anything could happen. I don't know if it's necessarily going to lead in a satisfying way. This the only other question that I have at this point is, could they just cancel the show at this point? I don't know how the contracts and all of that work, but could Whitney just be like, okay, you know what? Especially if I do want to get out of Dodge here, can we just cancel this show? I will eat all of the ridiculous amounts of my parents' money that I have put into it. And can I just go and start somewhere else? Like, is
Yeah.
that on the table?
I don't know. Too much money's been put into it. I think it would probably end up being like a one season thing
Yeah.
or something along those lines.
I They have been very careful about whether or not this is, a limited series, if this
Yeah.
could be a season 2. Like, there's a lot of just information bouncing around out there. I feel like this finale is going to have a lot of closure and it's going to be dark, and I don't feel like there's going to be another season, and if there is, I have no idea what it would even be about, especially if somebody dies.
Well, thank you guys for watching this video. We really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button and helping support Matt and I here at the channel.
Yeah.
Also, I just did a podcast called Life's Undertaking, just talking about TV and stuff like that. I'll leave the link for you below, and I hope you check it out.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to our patrons for your support, and we'll see you here next time.